I was reading, the first time I heard about you, and it was kind of indirectly, she says, well, Artie, did you see that there's this entrepreneur and they're investing $1 million on the South Side? And I said, well, no, I haven't seen it. She says, you may want to check this article out. So I read it, and I said, okay, all right. I said, still doesn't really say where,
Right.
Right under my nose, it was in College Park, Georgia,
right.
Like you said, right beside the brake pad.
Right.
I've seen many business owners or entrepreneurs acquire buildings, but never, 3 or 4 at the same time. So.
Welcome to the Southside Show, your local news and information source for Atlanta's South Side.
Welcome to the Southside Show. I'm your host, Artie Jones III. Each week we shine a spotlight on the Southside's rich culture and colorful history, which has a global effect on faith, economy, politics, and technology. The Southside Show will introduce you to the talented individuals, visionary leaders, innovative entrepreneurs, and game changers that make us Southside strong. Our guest today is a 1994 graduate of the University of Georgia with a BA in journalism and a master's degree in management technology from Kennesaw State University. She's a serial entrepreneur, the CEO of VB Consulting. She owns Papadopoulos, and she's also the CEO of the Building Bridges Foundation. And last but not least, she's a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Yay. I'd like to introduce you to and welcome Valaurie Bridges Lee to the show, Southside Show. How are you doing, Valaurie?
I'm doing fantastic. It's great to be here.
Yes, it's great for you to be here. You're doing some tremendous things on the South Side in College Park, Georgia on Main Street. So first and foremost, tell our Southside Show guests a little bit about your background, where you're from, and kind of where you went to school.
I'd be happy to do that. I grew up in College Park. I actually lived on Green Spring Road in College Park off of Roosevelt Highway. And I went to school in College Park. I went to Stonewall Elementary, and then I went to Woodward Academy.
Wow. Okay.
So I spent 7th through 12th grade at Woodward Academy. And as you've already mentioned, went to the University of Georgia, went to Kennesaw State. Now I'm in another situation where I'm back in school at Georgia State getting my doctorate degree in business and entrepreneurship.
Wow.
But I love the South Side. Even though I moved to California for a couple of years, I made my way back. And not only did I make my way back to Georgia, but I made my way back to the South Side. I used to live on Walker Avenue for many years in College Park. But as a student growing up at Woodward Academy, I always loved this one particular area where I am right now. Mm-hmm. And that is right next to Brake Pad. We have the wellness spot that's there. We have Papadopoulos that's there. And we do have Building Bridges Holding Company and my IT firm. So I am so happy to have all of those businesses right there on Main Street in College Park.
Okay. For our Southside Show guest, I want to kind of show our Southside Show guest kind of the journey where you've come from.
The journey.
So, right out of school,
yes,
you're working for someone. You're not an entrepreneur at that point, but you're working for someone. So talk to us about that.
I will talk to you about it, but I do want to just point out something that, when you go back into your childhood, there's some kind of trigger or catalyst that makes you aware of what your calling is. Not what's comfortable for you, but what your calling is. And as a little girl, I had a lot of friends that wanted to go outside and play. That was not my favorite game. My favorite game was store. I had set up my room like an actual store. My granny brought me a cash register. I had receipts. I had clothes everywhere. And I wanted to play store. So back then, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted my own business. So you're right. After school, after I graduated from the University of Georgia, I worked for a recycling company. Okay. And I was a professional trash woman. But I went around to different businesses and I sold them trash services and I set up recycling accounts. So once I did that, it introduced me to sales, which I absolutely love, and that's a skill that's very transferable to any business. but I was a recycling coordinator, worked for waste management, and then while I worked for waste management, I went to get my master's degree.
Okay, Kennesaw.
In Kennesaw, which was at the time Southern Polytechnic University. So got that degree, and when I finished that degree, IBM came to recruit. And so I said, wow, this is my opportunity to live in a different state. I moved to California and I worked for IBM. Amazing experience. I needed to leave home. I needed to leave the state of Georgia so that I could see how are other folks living. And that was a wonderful experience. And so when I worked for IBM, it was great. I was in management consulting with them. And then I moved on to work for PeopleSoft. There was a practice within IBM that was a PeopleSoft practice. I worked for them. So working for PeopleSoft really introduced me to the world of IT, IBM and PeopleSoft, because my degree was public relations.
Okay.
So I got hands-on experience. I worked for higher ed institutions implementing software. So that's hands-on experience. Didn't go to school for IT, but just kind of fell into it. And while I was working for PeopleSoft, one of the things that you have to be very cautious of when you are a consultant is you don't want to be what they call on the bench. That means you're not on a project. So I was going to ensure I use my sales strategy, and I started calling colleges to see if they needed our services. And then I started saying, wait a minute now, I'm not being paid in sales, I'm just a consultant. Is there a possibility that I could do this on my own? Because I was bringing in tremendous revenue for the company.
Yeah.
So I remember this day, I turned in my resignation right after I did a presentation at a conference in Las Vegas.
Wow.
It was phenomenal because at that conference, I was able to secure several clients who said, we need you at our school. We need you to help us implement software. So I had a 6-week project with Bryn Mawr University. And my mom said, are you really going to quit your job for a 6-week project? I said, Mom, I am stepping out on faith. I know I'm supposed to be an entrepreneur. I know this is my calling, and that's what I did, and I have not looked back. So I had that 6-week project and then another 2-year project, and it just snowballed. So February 22nd of this month, I will celebrate 20 years of having my own IT firm.
Wow.
And it's now headquartered right here in College Park, VB Consulting.
Wow.
That's the journey, and that's a short story, but that's the journey of me becoming an entrepreneur. Did I do it fearful? Yes, I did. But there was this catalyst that said I was uncomfortable where I was, and I knew that I wasn't supposed to be there. I knew that it was my time to make a transition, and I'd stepped out on faith. 6-week project, but I said, you know what? I know God is going to take care of me, and He has. Haven't looked back.
That's a tremendous story. What would you say to an entrepreneur that's out there, or someone that is out there in a job, they're not feeling fulfilled?
Right.
Now, I don't want you to feel responsible. Tell them, hey, go quit your job and
Right.
do your own thing. But
Right.
what would you say would be some steps or some things that they need to do before considering stepping out on faith like you did?
Right. Well, what I will say is I'm going to use what I did because I can't really give them advice, but I prayed about my transition. And I felt like I got confirmation because there was a piece that I had as it related to that. Of course, I did my homework. I wanted to make sure that making this move, I could take care of myself, right?
Yeah.
I did have my stash of income that I needed. I did all the research. I started, I opened up my checking account. I did all of those things necessary so that it was time for me to pull the trigger to do that. I was ready.
Okay.
And so it was just an enormous adventure because if someone is not willing to take risks, entrepreneurship is not the route that they should take. It is, to this day, I'm constantly taking risks. I've made a lot of decisions that I probably should not have made, but it makes me a better entrepreneur or business owner. So with having VB Consulting, that company allowed me to invest more on the South Side and more in businesses. So with VB Consulting, because I had 20 years of experience, and I could show the longevity of my company, I was able to buy commercial property on the South Side, 4 buildings. I was able to start a wellness spot, that now it's got massages, manicures, pedicures, because I saw a need over there. That's what entrepreneurs do. When they see a gap, they want to fill the gap.
Right.
And when you can fill the gap, you found your niche. Also with that, because I have been an entrepreneur for so long and I'm very passionate about it, especially for women entrepreneurs, I started a foundation. And it's called BVB Foundation. And BVB is, I have 2 daughters, Bailey and Blair, and that's where the BVB comes from. And it supports financially for minority African American entrepreneurs who need a push, who need a mentor, who need funding. So I have that organization as well. And I'm just very passionate about helping, encourage, and motivate, because it can be very daunting. It can be very scary to jump out on your own. But I do feel like part of my calling is to encourage folks that, or even to caution. Because there's a lot of folks that have come to me and said, "Oh, I really would love for you to be my mentor." Well, that comes with a lot, because in order for me to mentor you, I have to see hunger in you, because that's what an entrepreneur is. It's someone who's very hungry. It's someone who wants to make a difference. It's someone who sometimes may not get sleep. It's someone who wakes up at 4 a.m. It's someone who is constantly thinking about, what can I do next to make a mark? What can I do next to help someone? Because that's really what entrepreneurship is navigating ambiguity to help someone else. And that is in the form of a business.
Okay, well, that's great. I was reading, the first time I heard about you, and it was kind of indirectly, Renee Coakley, who's the Main Street manager for the city of College Park.
Renee is awesome.
She says, "Well, Artie, did you see that there's this entrepreneur and that they're investing $1 million on the South Side?" And I said, "Well, no, I haven't seen it." She says, "You may want to check this article out." So I read it, and I said, "Okay, all right." I said, "Still doesn't really say where,
Right.
Right under my nose, it was in College Park, Georgia,
Right.
Like you said, right beside the brake pad."
Right.
I've seen many business owners or entrepreneurs acquire buildings, but never, 3 or 4 at the same time. So I believe in taking chances.
Right. That was risky.
But
I know.
that was. Tell me, how did that come about? I mean, were just 4 of them available all of a sudden, or
It's a good question. It's a very good question. So my story again is, my flagship business is the IT firm. And we have consultants that are all over the country. And so whenever we have a meeting, which is annually or biannually, I always we had to struggle with, where can we meet? Where can we meet? And so I just kept feeling like I need my own space. We rented space in Peachtree City for many years. And because my children go to Woodward, I went to Woodward. I thought, I wonder, is there anything over on the South Side? Because again, as I said, I like to give back to the community. And it just so happened that this strip on Main Street is a strip I always admired coming up from the 7th through 12th grade, always admired. And then after I graduated from Woodward, there were some businesses that I patronized right in that area. And I remember many, many years ago walking into the first building that I bought and feeling like, oh, this building is it has a soul. And I remember that the building was for sale. This one, and I'll just quickly take you through the journey. The first building was for sale. I passed by it for months, and then I stopped one day and I looked inside the door, and doors to me just represent opportunity. And I looked through and I could envision myself being in there. And so, long story short on that, bought that first building that was going to be used for office space. But 2 days later, my neighbor came over and said, "Oh, I know, and I hear, welcome to the community. I hear that you're looking for office space." She says, "I think you should come look at my building because it's office ready. You'd have to do a lot of renovations for this one." Looked at her space, and I was floored because the office was immaculate. It was what I thought I wanted and needed. And I said, well, what will I do with this other space that I just bought? Well, you'll use that for other entrepreneurs who don't have brick and mortar, and they will be able to showcase their businesses in this space. So that's how Popshopolis was born.
Okay.
Then the other space that's next door to it, the wellness spot, it's a funny story. Always loved this space as well. I knew the owner very well. The owner helped me decorate my home. We became friends. And he said, Valaurie, you know I am selling this space. Are you gonna do it right now? Yes, I'm doing it right now. So I think, long story short, I bought that space as well. It was in a matter of over a year and a half that I purchased all of those spaces, renovated those spaces, and that was not my plan. But because I was open, opportunity presented itself, and I like to say it was favor. And also because I had my finances in order, the banks were very generous with me, and I was very excited about giving back to the community in that way.
Wow, that's tremendous. That is tremendous. Wow. You've heard of UJMA before,
Yes.
cooperative economics,
Yes.
and I think with a lot of the things that you've done, especially with your nonprofit organization and Popshopolis, you're really giving entrepreneurs, you're reinvesting into the community.
Absolutely.
Do you feel that you have arrived?
Oh.
Or do you feel that you're still on the journey, or do you feel that you don't feel that you're doing enough?
I don't think as an entrepreneur and a serial entrepreneur, you never feel like you're doing enough.
Right.
Some advice that someone's shared with me, and I always like to say to other entrepreneurs, is once you are established, then you pay it forward. And so paying it forward means giving back however you choose to do that. So with Popshopolis, yes, that's giving back. With the office space, where we have office spaces for, we have conference rooms, we have a podcast room, we give back, we donate some of that time to folks. And even at the wellness spot, where we do the manicures, the pedicures, massages, the special events, we also, we did a drive to put your best foot forward, because fitness is important at the wellness spot. We wanted to make sure that we collected shoes for some of the kids in the community. So paying it forward is essential, I think, to a successful business and an entrepreneurial journey, because you can't establish that. And I like to say, instead of success, you've established yourself. You have to help others establish what they want to do. And it's more fulfilling. That is where I get the drive and the energy, because everybody says, where do you get all this energy from? But I get that energy when someone comes to me and they say, oh my goodness, because of what you've done, the renovations that you've done at the wellness spot or at Popshopolis or Building Bridges Holding Company, I have renewed hope. I have renewed strength, not only in what you've done, but what I can do and what I can share with someone else, because I want someone else to hear your story. So just giving back and showing and being an example is what that's my focus as an entrepreneur.
Okay. Whenever I see you in the community, because I am a loyal customer of the wellness
you are.
spot.
You're a transformed customer too. I like to point that out.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling it too much at the very beginning, but I mean, wow. I mean, excellent facility, top-notch service. Customer service is I mean, it's a place where I feel very welcome.
Wonderful.
And even when I'm just passing by,
Good.
on my way to another restaurant, they'll like, hey Artie, how you doing? When you coming in again? And I said, well, hey, I'm gonna go and get that thing scheduled. So, but
yes.
Fantastic. But what would you seem to be one of the biggest cheerleaders that the Southside has.
I am.
So what are some of those amenities, assets on the Southside that you enjoy as a business owner?
Well, let me just start first with when we moved back, to College Park, the warmth and the feeling that I got from the mayor, Renee, it was impeccable. and the amount of support that we received because we did have a lot of challenges with renovations. We went through 3 contractors. COVID with supplies, etc. They were extraordinarily understanding. And so I feel like what I am getting in the South Side, and as it's always been, is home. There's a sense of familiarity. You all are embracing. It's community. That's really what I feel is the biggest asset of being on the South Side is there's community there. And actually, Michelle Johnson, I was a cheerleader with her at Woodward Academy.
Oh,
so
I didn't know
it's
that.
just so much familiarity there, and it's just amazing. Ashley, who works with Michelle, taught my daughter gymnastics. So there's just this sense of community that I cannot get anywhere else.
That's fantastic. You have at least 4 businesses that I'm aware of. I'm quite sure that you're members of a number of different types of organizations.
Yes.
You have at least 2 kids that I'm aware of.
Yes.
Go to Woodward Academy.
Yes.
You travel because I've been, whenever I try to schedule appointments with you, you're tied up and traveling a lot. So how do you find time to be able to balance family and business and personal pursuits that you have?
There's always room for improvement with all of us. And I have to admit that is an area that I am working on because I can't sell self-care and not practice it. And that is an area that needs some work. I would love to be able to say that I get 6 to 8 hours of sleep, but I don't. But I'm working on it. In 2022, that's one of my New Year's resolutions. But self-care can come in a lot of different forms. Self-care comes in the form, for me, in the form of prayer, in the form of meditation, which we do offer meditation classes at the Wellness Spot, in the form of journaling. And I would encourage anyone, everyone, entrepreneur or not, journaling is so important. I have journals from when I was 10 years old. And the importance of those journals is to go back and look at how far I have come, how far God has brought me. And it also indicates how much more I have left to do in those journals. So journaling is very therapeutic. So when I'm on the plane, when I'm traveling, I am journaling. The other thing that I do in my car is also my sanctuary. I listen to things that are going to motivate me, that pour into me, that encourage me, because we all need that. And so I know that I oftentimes am used as a vessel to help someone else, but I have to make sure that I'm full as well. So I put on inspirational tapes, inspirational music, and that is how I find my peace and my balance.
Okay, well, great. So is there anything that you would like to leave our Southside Show guest with as we close?
There's nothing that I would like to leave them with other than when you look at an entrepreneur who you think looks like the model of success, a lot of times you don't know the journey. You see the glory, but you don't know the story. And a lot of young folks have come to me and said, oh, I want to do what you do. And it doesn't happen overnight. There's a lot of sweat equity that's involved with being an entrepreneur. And I really want, especially, and that's what I do in my foundation as well. We have a subgroup under the BVB Foundation that's called God's Girls. And I encourage them and I say, listen, you have to plan for everything that you want, right? And you have to persevere. If you don't get the scholarship, if you don't get the grant, don't stop. Let that be your motivation. Just like Vice President says, I eat no for breakfast. And that's what I do. If someone tells me no, you might tell me no right now, but I'm going to eventually come back around. And I've used that in several instances where schools, contracts, I've not gotten them initially, but because we built relationships with each other, because people do business with who they like, right?
Yes.
And who's invested in them. We eventually came back around to landing the contract. So it's perseverance, persistence, prayer. Those are important components of being an entrepreneur or just living in 2022 from my perspective.
Okay. And how can our Southside guest show contact you?
Oh, they can contact us at www. Who says www anymore? But thewellnessspot.atl.com. On Instagram, we're wellnessspot.atl. We'd love for them to come and get services there. We do manicures, pedicures, massages, facials. And we also host special events, so you can rent the space out on Sunday. VB Consulting we specialize in higher education for IT services, but we are also expanding our suite of services, so I'd love to talk to anybody about that as well. Our website for that is vb-consultinginc.com. Popshopolis ATL is our pop-up shop for entrepreneurs, and bvbfoundation.org is where you can contact us as it relates to funding or grants for minority, African American, female entrepreneurs.
All right. Well, thank you, Valaurie.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here and just to talk about how much the Southside was so instrumental in my development. It's an honor and a privilege for me to give back.
All right. Well, we look forward to hearing from you in the future with bigger and better things, more accomplishments.
Yes.
And please come back and visit us soon.
Thank you.
And like I said, you will be seeing me over at the Wellness Spot soon.
I'm looking for you.
All right. Thanks. And it's a wrap, folks. My time is up. I'm Artie Jones, your host of the Southside Show, bringing you the latest and the greatest that the Southside has to offer. And if you don't remember anything else, please remember this. Don't sleep on the Southside.